welcome to this, the first Conversations with the Mayor for 2025. Welcome, Mayor Patrick Keefe. I always stumble over that somehow. I want to welcome you to this conversation and also congratulate you on your first full year as the official mayor of the city, if you will. You were temporary mayor before that.
Not acting anymore.
Not acting, that was the word, right, exactly. Welcome and Happy New Year to you.
And same to you, Ed, and thanks for having me, and thanks for everyone allowing us into your home today.
Yeah. I wanted to start off with, and being this time of the year, we just came through the holidays when there's a lot of fun events going on, but talking about events and activities and community spirit, building community spirit within the city. I think you had some things you wanted to talk about there.
You know, it's a big part of the culture that I grew up in, but also, you know, trying to make sure that we continue to position ourselves as a great place to live and visit, but we want to really make sure that people that live here have a lot of events. It's really difficult to take a family of 4 or 6 and take them into Boston. It could be expensive to go to some of the events. They have long lines. We can do a lot of those fun events right in our community. We did that this year, which, you know, we had, as you saw over the fall, we had our Fall Fest. We turned that into a little bit of a Fall Fest, Porch Fest. We had food trucks. We had merchandise. We had obviously unbelievable music and entertainment, all free for our residents. And we saw people come from all over the city, but then we did see some people come from outside, and it was a really fun time. We have a younger office in my team, much more youthful, and I could see what their wants are, and I think that that's the growing demand and wants from a lot of our community. You don't have to go very far to get the entertainment and the happiness that you want in a community by leaving the city of Revere. You have, obviously, the beach,
yep.
The Sand Sculpting Festival, which is in partnership with the Revere Beach Partnership and DCR and the state. One of the best events a year we have each year. We just had a holiday parade. First holiday parade that we've had since I've been in the city. They've done things like that in the past, but being able to bring things like that back to fruition, it wasn't an overly cumbersome parade. We did a very short route because we know that in order to gridlock the entire city, it can be very difficult. So we did something really fun. It ended up with a little bit of a winter wonderland in front of City Hall. We did our annual tree lighting. But we're going to make sure that we have something on tap each quarter,
yep.
so that we can, you know, offer back to our residents. And the great thing, when you have an entity, and I say Revere as an entity, with, you know, over 1,000 employees at the school, and, you know, between our public safety and our city staff and our DPW, another 500 or so employees, we're able to do it with the resources we have. So it's not very expensive. It doesn't cost. It's not a burden to the taxpayer. We're able to kind of give back with the people that we have in our city.
So it's homegrown.
Homegrown. I mean, I used the Fall Fest.
Yeah.
Entertainment was zero. We didn't have to spend on any entertainment. We did spend to have some music set up, meaning the microphones and stage.
Yeah.
It was very minimal, but the entertainers played for free.
Yeah.
And it was really great. There was a little bit of offering to help support some of their costs that they incurred, but we did it really on a very shoestring budget.
Yeah. 3 things you hit upon in that conversation is, number one, youth within the city staff and their impact on the things you're doing. Can you talk about, you know, where that's coming from and where they're coming from and how that's...
You know, in order to attract the best employees, you gotta offer different things. We know that the job market is ultra competitive, and we know that most people that will come to work in the municipality sometimes are looking for a certain quality of life and stability. So you gotta bring the total package. And we know that our younger people want to have some fun, but there's also a very serious level of work. Their engagement is great. Their ideas are fantastic, and we want to make sure that we're able to kind of harness that.
A little out of them. The second thing I wanted to talk about that you had mentioned was people from outside the city coming to the events, because in the past we had trouble trying to get enough participation, if you will. And now we've got not only our own residents, but other residents coming in, and I've seen that in some of the things we've run in Beachmont.
No, there's no doubt about it. We're a pretty cool community, and we have a lot of landscape that people really enjoy. We have what a lot of cities don't have. You know, obviously we have the beautiful landscape of our beach. We have a lot of tradition in our community. We're not landlocked, of course. So that's something that I think people really enjoy. We have, you know, Rumney Marsh. We have the Riverside neighborhood. We kind of hit on all notes. So I see more and more people not just wanting to come to our community for events, but you see more and more people wanting to move to our community to make Revere home.
That's great. And then the last part I wanted to bring up, and it's an interesting aspect of this whole celebration, because in the past it was Broadway-centric, but you mentioned Porch Fest. Talk a little bit, because that seems like now we're bringing it out into the neighborhoods.
We are. We have talked about that and putting it into different areas of the community, and even when it comes to like some of our concert series, which we do a really great job at the American Legion. But you've seen music venues on the beach. You've seen music venues at some of our different parks and neighborhoods. So we're entertaining the idea of doing more of a full Porch Fest as well. It's all about making sure there's buy-in from each block or community. We don't want to put something that's overly intrusive in a neighborhood that it's not going to work. So if there are, when we talk about this next year, there may be opportunities for residents to opt in and say, hey, listen, our entire street's all about this. We want to be able to entertain during this event. We did something that was pretty unique last year as well. We did a community yard sale where we helped advertise and put on a road map of one kind of singular day over on a Saturday when typical yard sales become pretty popular, and everyone that opted in, it was of course complimentary. They were able to put on this map where these hunters, these what do they call them, the antique roadshow types, are able to take the look at the map and say, hey, we're going to go from street to street and see who's participating in these community yard sales and selling their goods. And we had a ton of people that were jumping into it, and we did a little bit of an email blast and social media blast, and it was a nice way to engage, and we're going to kind of double down on that next year. I love
that idea, because it's something, because I have a lot of stuff, being at my age now, I've accumulated a lot of things throughout life, and I always say, what do I do with it? And I've been thinking yard sale, and I'm thinking a community yard sale would be great. I love that.
So that's one that I think year one was good, year two will be better, and then we'll see by year three is this a viable option to make sure this happens every year.
I think it's a fantastic idea. Well, those are all great ideas, and going on to events and activities that get people excited, and let's talk about some developments that are going to that end. One, and first of all, is McMackin Field, which we've all been dying to see recreated, if you will. So talk a little bit about what's happening there and what's going on.
You see it as you drive by today in its current state. It's been a blighted property for many, many years, and it's unfortunate the property fell into disrepair. There were flooding concerns, and then you saw the overvegetation, and it turned into really almost this landscape that we weren't sure what was going on in there. What was living in there too? Fortunately, there was no disruption in the environment. We did take a look at. We had environmentalists go out there to make sure that we weren't moving any invasive species or bringing on any invasive species. So we got through that clearance, and we were able to clear the property and tear down some of the property that was falling down. And now we're in the process of building it back up. There have been a lot of calls. They call the office. They ask the residents in the nearby neighborhood, thinking that the city is in this development of putting some sort of housing. And what I tell everyone is, I don't know what housing the city has built in the last 50 years, because we haven't. Private development certainly does, and we understand that. But we're going to be restoring it to a beautiful park and open space for the entire community. We have to do some engineering work first to make sure that it stays viable, because it's a very low-lying area. The groundwater rises 4 feet above where the level is right now.
I see the pumps pumping it out all the time.
So we have to first bring that up to a higher grade. And our initial engineering study, which we have a secondary study happening as we speak, is talking somewhere about 8 feet to bring it up so that we won't have to worry about flood issues over there. There's some other engineering work that will come into play when it comes to dropping utilities in there and making sure that there's electricity and drainage. And then you'll see really rapidly, probably by the end of the summer, we'll start to see some real construction happening. And the hopes is that that park will be ready to not break ground, to open up for the public it will be open in 2026.
2026.
Yeah.
Okay, I was going to ask you if you had a time frame. And
Probably summertime, maybe late summer, but it'll be ready to go, and there'll be beautiful play space, multi-purpose play space.
Well, I was just going to ask, what's the vision for the park?
So we know the growing demand in our community has been soccer, but we also know that it would kill me as a former baseball player and coach and softball coach.
I spent many time down there myself.
Do not have the opportunity to offer that. So we're going to have it designed so that you can play softball, Little League baseball. It's certainly not big enough to have a major. It's about 205 feet fields, and about a 12U soccer field, or lacrosse, or flag football.
So it's going to be a lot of uses.
It'll be multi-purpose, and it'll serve the community of all. And then, of course, there'll be some walking paths along the outskirts, and we want to make sure that to not be too intrusive to the neighborhood. We'll make sure that we have additional off-street parking.
We still have the seating built into the hill like the Roman Colosseum? Or?
I don't believe so, because it's going to be brought up, but there is talks about how we can create some sort of grandstand. And of course we do want to restore some facilities, bathroom facilities, and storage facilities.
Oh, that's going to be great. And looking at another site that's been, if you will, underused, I guess, for lack of a better word, the McKinley site. What's going on with that?
So we have just put out some RFPs and RFQs for what we envision to happen at McKinley. There's been a long kind of backlog of need to service our community when it comes to early childhood education. The governor talked about this when she was first inaugurated, especially in communities like Revere, gateway communities, really underserved when it comes to child care needs and also early childhood education. We know, and every study will tell you, that the quicker you're able to get kids, young children, 3 to 5 years old, in front of educational resources, their chances in life when it comes to success skyrocket. So we want to make sure that we're able to offer that to our residents of Revere and add it into our educational system. It's a school. It should be used as a school. So the first the main use will be early childhood education. We're also in a really good opportunity where, as you probably are aware, the city of Revere shares its regional 911 call center with the city of Winthrop. We house that at the Revere Police Station. Right. It's a small area, about 4,000 square feet, so not much bigger than the room we sit in. It serves 2 municipalities, and it is in the stages of starting to overgrow the space. So we are able to take a look at that space, work with the state 911 center and their funding sources, and we're able to carve out a space in that building as well to house the regional 911 response center. The state loves it. They're very excited, and to the point where they're willing to really pay for a great share of rehabbing that building.
And when you think about resiliency issues and all of that stuff in coordinating with emergency management agencies, I got to imagine that puts us in a very good position when we've got an issue going on and we need to deal with the state and so forth.
We've come a long way with our regional 911, and we have a great director. We have an unbelievable team. They've done a really good job. They handle immense amounts of call volume, not just for Revere and Winthrop, but we're the backup for our surrounding communities. So if something happens, if they go offline, or if they have a critical incident, these surrounding municipalities jump in. So we tend to fall as the backup community for the Chelseas and the Everetts and so on more often, and Massport, because of the proximity of where we are. And we're doing a really good job. So just continuing to expand what we're able to offer them and offer our public safety resources to our entire community is going to be huge. So McKinley will be, and this is if everything lines up the way we hope, majority of it will be used for early childhood education, and that will be rolled into our Revere school system to be able to offer more seats to our residents, because there's a current backlog and waiting list.
Not only is it, and it's also very expensive.
Right. Well, I mean, and we know that this will be at times the cost of the resident, if they wish
Yep.
to enroll their children. There is a small cost, but a lot of it is dealt with through the educational funding sources. But there's also more opportunities to offer full day, which we know is kind of really important for people that need to get to work. Your children, your grandchildren, my children.
Yep.
When you have to work, and most parents work, both parents work, is your kid has to be somewhere. So at 3 years old, they're able to go to maybe a full day, and you can have a standard job. And then, of course, the third use, which we're looking to incorporate into the basement space, is a community food hub, which was something that kind of came to fruition in the planning phases when it came to kind of our city's master plan a few years back. When they have these in a few different cities. You got Commonwealth Kitchen, you have Stockpot Kitchen in Charlestown, but there's also its incubator space for innovative future food restaurants and uses. You got people,
Chef Jose Andres, yeah, type of thing, right?
Right. Or maybe
Chef Patrick.
maybe your neighbor makes the best guacamole, or makes the best tomato sauce. I think I make the best. And they want to take that to the next level of getting commercial and being able to sell it in retail spaces. But you can't do it out of your home.
Right.
And we see that now, and that's great. You can sell it to your friends and neighbors, and kind of off the radar. But if you want to legitimize that, you have to have a commercial space. So the ability to go and just go ahead and rent out a 4,000 or 6,000 square foot kitchen to be able to just do your red sauce is not tenable. But if you're able to pool those resources and say, we're going to rent space once a week or twice a week to produce our goods, and then sell them to a small market or sell them to a Whole Foods. And that's where you see a lot of those boutique brands, that's how they started.
Yep.
That's something that will be able to be used. Of course, we'll be able to consolidate all of our city's food resources. We have our food on Fridays. We have a couple different food pantries, the Veterans Food Pantry. We'd be able to house it all there in a state-of-the-art, or at least upgraded, safe, HACCP compliant food space.
And what a great venue, I guess, for exposing, if you will, the creations of these people. Having a community event where Taste of Revere, so to speak, not just the restaurants, but the people who are doing it at home. The other aspect of that came to me as you were talking is that I seem to remember 2-3 years, maybe even longer ago, there was a survey, and the survey was focusing on people who are doing small businesses at home because they don't have a place, and what their needs might be. So it's great to see something like this coming along, most likely as a result of the input from that survey.
Additional recreational spaces, outdoor specifically, this food hub. These are all.
Is it the 5-year plan?
These were all from what our residents are asking for. And I know that the toughest subject to talk about is housing.
Yes.
And I know I don't want to spend a lot of time on that.
But we'll take that towards the end.
But we know that was also a big part of it too, and a component that the residents of Revere were asking for. But it also has to be thoughtful. And there's no doubt about it that I'm very aware of that. That it has to be thoughtful, and it has to be. There's no one-size-fits-all approach to any neighborhood, and it needs to be able to kind of fit into the neighborhood. And that's where you're in Beachmont, one of the oldest neighborhoods in this community of Revere, but has seen probably the most change. But it's been the wildest thing is it's been embraced by the Beachmont Improvement Committee and the longest standing residents in the city. So it's been very nice and refreshing to see that. I talk to you about that often.
Yes.
Because Beachmont has seen a lot of change.
It has seen a lot of change, and I can speak to in my own neighborhood how I've seen the change over 40 years, and it's all for the good. It's been better each time. Moving on, all of these things are great, but of course there's infrastructure that's required to make a lot of it happen and to keep the city running. We have drainage and water line issues and other infrastructure issues. What's going on? Because we see a lot of digging, that's for sure.
So you never really are fully understanding. It's very frustrating, right? You drive by National Grid's ripping up a lot of streets in the entire Northeast, and that has been something that you've seen since they had the unfortunate gas issue up in North Andover and Lowell, Lawrence, 8 or so years ago. So National Grid has had to become very aggressive with replacing their lines. But from the city side, we're making sure that our water systems are up to snuff. but also our drainage systems are proper. Many years ago, the city, as you're probably aware, was put under a federal consent decree when it came to how we treat and send out our wastewater. Right. That's the stuff that goes down your sink and drain, and also from your bathroom. What happened was the system was so old, it was very porous. The water that you were sending out from your home was also, there was leaching from water that was coming from rain. So 10, 12, 14 years ago, the city of Revere sent more wastewater to Deer Island than they do today. Yeah. Imagine that. So we, with a greater population, send less wastewater to Deer Island than we did 12.
And we have more units.
So, and that is a savings to this community. The reason why we don't necessarily see all of that is because the expense it's taken to get there, to reline all of those sewer systems, hundreds of miles of sewer systems, to replace, to add pumping stations to make sure that it gets pushed out properly, especially in certain elevations. We do a lot of that, and we do a really good job. I'll put our water and sewer department up against any community in the greater Boston area. I'll put them up against any community in the state of Massachusetts. We do a fantastic job, but then it's not just in Don Charamello, who's semi-retired, but he stays on in the consulting role. His biggest concern when I came in, and I know he did this under the prior administration, was not so much wastewater, because he knows that is it's unsanitary, and it's also it can be very frustrating. But his bigger concern was water coming into your house and water going to your hydrants. And we're seeing this right in front of our eyes right now. When you have wildfires, and we had wildfires in Massachusetts just this summer. Yes. And we had wildfires going on in California that have been to the level of destruction that we'll never fully comprehend, and the city of Revere will hopefully never have to endure. But to make sure that when our fire department shows up in front of your house, that they have confidence that they can hook up their pumper to your hydrant, and it works, and it also has the right amount of pressure, and it has the right amount of water, and it puts out that fire, and it doesn't spread, and we save lives, and we stop damages to your property or to your neighbor's property. That is critical. And then on top of it, we want to make sure you have clean water, because you want to drink it, and you want to be able to bathe in it. But we work with the MWRA. They compliment us on our programs. We've been going through a huge overhaul with lead service replacements, and the city will do that for free. Mm-hmm. So if we discover that you have a lead line, we remove it and replace it for free. Now, yes, there is a cost to the city when it comes to that. There have been great grant programs from the MWRA to help sponsor that, interest-free loans from the MWRA to make sure that we can replace that line. Because if you have lead in your line, it affects us all. Yeah. And we want to make sure we remove that. What we're doing is all that you've seen over the last year. We were pretty aggressive in test pits and getting down to make sure we could see what's underground. And the unfortunate part is, if we don't know what you have, because maybe someone skirted how they built a property 30 or 40 or 50 years ago and didn't put down the right records, then we have to still dig a test pit. And that's the tough part.
Is those little square holes that you keep seeing in the street outside houses.
If everyone did everything right when they were supposed to and kept good record of it, then we wouldn't have to dig all those test pits. So we might dig 20 test pits and only find one lead service line. And that's where, we always talk about the good old days. Yeah. They were good, but they weren't always right.
Yeah, I've had that conversation with a lot of people. You hit on something else again when you were talking about the infrastructure, and you mentioned Don Charamello. And when you look at not only within the DPW and the engineering department, you think of Paul Argenzio, you think of Sergeant Janino from the police station having gone, Chief Bright, who's recently retired, and well, Donnie, you said who's so there's a huge change going on at the upper level of all of these support groups. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Again, I talked a little bit about it, is attracting great talent. Yep. And sometimes it's not looking too far. You have 60,000+ residents in the community. There's a lot of talent in Revere. And we've made a very concerted, big part of my administration is to make a concerted effort to hire more Revere residents and or attract them to come live here. And we're doing just that. Now, that doesn't mean everyone, because we know that sometimes that's just not feasible. And
Yep.
we'll talk about Tom Skorofsky. He's our Chief of Planning and Development.
Yep.
And he lives a few towns over in Melrose. He's got a young family. He's got an unbelievable pedigree in education, and he's doing a fantastic job. We kind of, I wouldn't say stumbled upon Tom, but when he came on, it was kind of a luck. It was a little bit of a lucky strike for us. So our job is to make sure we retain that. But to complement Tom with other resources and other personnel
within the city.
I'll give a little kudos to my office, and we have a new legislative aide and a new communications aide, and Revere high school graduates, Boston College and Boston University, and they're in my office, and they are a great resource to me. And then you have some of the senior people in my office that Revere residents. That Linda, everyone knows Linda.
Yep.
She's my scheduler and really my chief assistant, and she's she knows everybody, and it's great. But she's also just a great resource in the
Great
office.
ambassador too, yeah.
And then you got Claudia, who's not from Revere but lives in Revere.
Yep.
and settled down in Revere, but represents a huge part of our community. As you know, well educated, worked for the Boston mayor. This was Marty worked under the Walsh administration.
Yep.
And since she joined former Mayor Arrigo in Human Resources. And she has now joined my office as the chief of staff just over a year ago.
Yeah, no, I remember talking to her a number of times, and we go way back to the days of the deliberations over the casino.
Right.
I remember her well.
Being the gift and the curse of being close to Boston, we have to deal with the traffic. But we also have the great fallout from their employee base that either doesn't want to deal with going into Boston every day,
Yep.
and they say, hey, well, these are high university, high-level graduates, or Fortune 500 companies that can go just a few minutes north and work and live in the city of Revere, and that's been the biggest attractive piece to not only work in the city of Revere, but to live here.
And you talk about living in Boston. It's a blessing and a curse, and in many respects, I've had a conversation with many people about that, and the fact that because we are a metropolitan Boston city, there's a lot that goes along with that. We just can't look at ourselves as an urban or a suburban area. We need to not just look at it, learn from it, figure out how to prepare for all of the things that go along with it. But thank you. You mentioned Tom, and that brings up the housing production plan, and which is a very comprehensive plan. And just to Tom, I agree with you. I think he's one of the brightest resources I've seen come along in a long time. And his Broadway development plan and the housing and production plan, from my perspective, are two plans that will go a long way to ensuring the city's economic and social viability long into the future, and I'm looking forward to seeing many of those things hopefully come to fruition. But that being said, and the first one that's on the line right now, and it's a big topic, in some cases a hot topic, and also a very large topic, so we're not going to get into a lot about it right now, but I guess primarily what I want to try and get an understanding is looking at where it is now and where you see it going, and how it you see it evolving.
Sure. That plan has been submitted to the City Council. It's also available on our city's website to take a look at, or if anyone wanted to request to take a look at. And it's just that it is a thoughtful process to if someone was playing SimCity. But it is not a one-size-fits-all for any neighborhood or any street or for any project. Each one comes with its pros and cons, and that's for everyone to decide. This is not a forced down approach, but it gives future developers, it gives future retailers an opportunity to say, hey, I want to invest in the city of Revere. What are some of the things we may or may want to do? What are some of the things we may or may not be able to do? And what's the appetite for that? So it kind of just gives a lens of which direction someone can head, and then each one comes with its own approval. So the City Council is going to deliberate it and work on it, and that's always been the hopes, is they would take a look at it, take out what they may not find too advantageous, or they may fundamentally disagree with, which is fine. or modify it. And then at some point in time, it'll be something that's placed into our kind of our book of here's what we're potentially open to or potentially not, and here are the pathways on to how to get there. And again, then each one of them would go for further approval. Something that came up over the last year has been accessory dwelling units. And I know that the term can be, it depends on which side of the row you're on, how you feel about it. Revere has been one of the most historic communities with ADUs since I've been alive, and probably for when you were born.
Right.
We called them Revere 2s.
Yep.
That's what they were. And if you go on a lot of our streets, you have stretches of homes that have in-law apartments, right? Yep. And it was a place where, sometimes mom or dad lived, sometimes your older children lived, and that's exactly what an ADU is, and that's what they're intended for. Now, these Revere 2s, and it's been unfortunate because we've been trying to navigate to help these homeowners, these people that lived in their homes for 80 years, 80, 90 years. They come to us pleading to legitimize their property so that they can sell, so they can go on to the next level of their life. Sometimes it's because of a family member that's passed, and maybe it's their heirs that are trying to deal with this property. And without having the proper definition, they're in a real pickle. And it's unfortunate if people have to go and rip out their basement apartments that their grandfather built. Yeah. We're trying to create a path where we can help them legitimize that. So that's something that's also in the HPP, is just giving them the ability to legitimize it, but doing it the right way, and that's making sure that it is safe, because that's our number one concern. We don't want someone to purchase a home or to have an addition on a home that was done 50 years ago and come to find out that the wiring wasn't done properly, or the fire systems are not adequate, and have the unfortunate situation that happens in a lot of older communities. These homes were built 50 or 60 or 70 years ago, and they're fire
not
traps.
up to code.
Right. So yep. we're working on that, and I think that we're making a lot of headway.
Yeah, and it's good. And I look at it, and in my simplistic view, it's getting to that 10% level, and what are those aspects of that plan that are going to help us get to the 10% level? Because I think that's what, as an overall goal, the city needs to be striving for, and what the 5-year plan, I think, is trying to do. Is that not it?
No, there's no doubt. One of the great things is we have some of our space, like our public housing space on Coolidge Street and Constitution Ave. It's very vast, and it's extremely underutilized. And there needs to be a lot of updating. There's a lot of those were built shortly after the war. Not a lot of them are handicap accessible, and so we have senior residents that are looking for housing options in their elder years, especially affordable housing options, and they're struggling. That's a big void in our community. That you have product like the Jack Setter House, which is affordable housing. The list is 3 years long, if you're lucky.
Yeah.
That's how do you tell an 85-year-old person that you got to wait 3 more years?
No.
And we want to be able to have more of that at our fingertips. So part of that plan is to make sure that we address concerns like that.
One of the things I saw in there, in the plan, that I went, hurrah, talking about partnering with the MBTA, for example, for some of the spaces. And I've always said that parking lot in Beachmont has been a prime location that could be used to develop and not only support the MBTA in its efforts of maintaining the station in the area around it. You know what I mean? So when I see things like that in there, I'm going, all right, great. Those are another possibility.
The state entities and the state ownership of certain parcels are something that I know that they're looking at closely, because they need to find their own funding sources to make sure that the MBTA stays viable. And you've seen the governors put out these plans, because they've been putting a lot of work into upgrading the infrastructure of the MBTA to make sure it's more dependable and reliable. We've been very fortunate with the Blue Line. It's been one of the most reliable lines. So we're also very fortunate to have the amount of stops we have in our city. But they're putting out some feelers on what they may or may not want to do, and it's those will be conversations to have later.
Yeah. We were fortunate enough to have the chief operating officer from the MBTA come to one of our meetings a couple of months ago.
Was that Philip Eng?
No, not
Oh,
Philip.
okay.
And forgive me, my old man brain, I forget it, but he is the chief operating officer for the operations end of it.
Okay, gotcha.
The operations end of it. But he actually came to the meeting. And funny how that happened, because there was a group of people who had children at the Garfield School, and they were looking at the Passover one day in the state that it was in. He happened to be just walking around, looking, in that area to see how it was and what was going on. They struck up a conversation, and the next thing you know, very, very approachable, very great, and it's good to see the way that's kind of turned around. Speaking of the MBTA.
Yeah, hot off the press, we just received a $400,000 grant to study the walkability from the MBTA through Wonderland. So, with the future of the high school happening at Wonderland, trying to get kids to not have to cross over a highway.
Yep.
We just were awarded that from the. I got a call directly from our Congresswoman and from our from our Senator Ed Markey, and they were super excited to tell us that we were granted that, and that's going to do the study work and some of the design work, and might get us to a certain percentage of the design that we can actually further that project. But it's going to be, if we're able to connect, the Wonderland site to the train space, so the Wonderland track site to the train space, and then potentially bridge that onto the hopes of a commuter rail.
Yep.
And I know that that's been long talked about. I'm not gonna think about it every single day, but it is on a wish list. It'll really, you'll see the impact it has on our community and the benefit that we all see, because commuter rail would just, it would be unbelievable.
Oh yeah, no, I look what happened in Newburyport. It's funny you talk about that, because Matthew just mentioned that to me the other day. He happened to see the thing on the $400,000 grant. So, any other events going on at this point in time that you'd like to highlight?
We have, obviously, we're coming up through the dead of winter.
Yep.
So the hopes is that we don't have to deal with a lot of snow events. But, it's going to be it's going to be winter break before you know it. I know the Parks and Recreation Department's doing a ton. And our senior Elder Affairs is doing their Valentine's events and doing a couple different really fun and cool events. Nothing... I enjoy nothing more than when especially in the nicer weather, I like to walk from my office to the senior center on Winter Ave. And the team there brings me such joy, because it's a really happy crew. And I see the amount of people that go there every day now. I've seen the transition. There was, used to be an average 20, 30.
Yep.
When I go there, there's 80, 100. And you worked there for a short period of time.
I did, and you're right. The average was 20 to 30 a day, right?
And now we're seeing so many more. They're talking with their fellow friends. They're playing bocce. There's, I believe, a pool table in there now.
Oh, nice.
There's for some, and I don't condone gambling, but there's a little bit of a poker
game.
table.
Yeah. Oh, good.
Bocino, all of Pokino. I'm not sure. I just know that they want me to bring a sack of pennies when I go there, but. And then there's always some snacks and food, and it's just a good environment. Great
It's funny you talk about the little game, and I know the table, and the game is not knock.
Whist or something like that.
No, it's not whist. It's not a whist game. It's.
I did walk into some cribbage recently as well, which my parents are cribbage players.
Yeah.
And I haven't played in a while, but I got to get back onto. I got to get back and a refresher on cribbage. Great little board game. I like board games. I like Uno.
Yep.
I like a couple of games that I'm not going to say on air. Apples to apples and things like that. Some of them can kind of get pretty fun, but I like board games very much.
But the beauty is, like you said, it's become a great environment for people to come and truly hang out, which is what it was supposed to be, and that's wonderful to hear.
And we're also investing in putting we're finally going to be putting the resources into fixing their handicap accessibility and redoing that entire ramp and frontway. It'll be a slight disruption when the construction's happening, so we'll have to use the back entrances and things like that. But that ramp will be, it's kind of falling off. If you've noticed it, it's falling off the side of the wall, which is creating intrusion, instability issues. that entire ramp will be replaced.
Yeah, I know. We when I was there, we were doing some engineering studies. We had Donnie and the folks coming down, taking pictures and all of that, trying to figure out what are we going to do about it. So that's great, because I recently, one of the members who recently passed, unfortunately, was wheelchair bound, and it got to the point where she could no longer go there,
Yeah.
because that they couldn't get her into the building. So that's going to be great. I applaud you for getting that done, because I think it's very important, and it was a huge loss to her when she couldn't do it. So it's something that unfortunately happens, but eventually get resolved. So that's good.
Right.
And that being said, and this is the other part to it, is how important something like that is to people like that.
It's a lifeline.
Because it becomes their lifeline.
It's a lifeline.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
I didn't fully grasp and understand when I was younger, growing up in a community that had a senior center. We would go there they used it for banquets, for like
Yep.
baseball banquets and things like that. Didn't fully grasp what the environment was about, because usually when we were going in there, the events for the day were finishing up. But now, not only as a city councilor, but as a mayor, my wife really likes to go in there too. She's as you know, my
Yep.
wife, when she's not working her day job, she likes to take time, usually each month, and go by, bring some cookies, but also she likes to converse. We have a lot of friends that are there, but also some of our friends' parents are there. And just to see them, they're getting out of the house, they're getting exercise, they're getting to communicate with their fellow friends. It is a total lifeline. The city of Revere will forever be committed to making sure that we take care of these seniors.
Yeah.
And we're doing more programs now than ever, not just at the senior center, we call it, but also programs to help make sure that our senior residents are well taken care of.
Yep.
With our health department. Also, we have every single option under the sun when it comes to trying to cut the edges off the cost increases that we've seen as a community,
Yep.
that the whole country has seen. We know that all of our utilities are more expensive.
Yep.
All of our resources have become more expensive. So we're making sure that we're there to support. So if there are people in need, we were able to take care of them. We have senior homeowner exemption programs. We have water rate exemption programs. We have different resources when it comes to food and food instability, if you qualify, that we'll support you with. So we have a great liaison team at the basement of City Hall that's able to really walk and navigate residents through. But we also bring them to the senior center, and our electric company, National Grid, has a program that they go in there and they help navigate our seniors through finding cheaper utilities through them.
Yep.
Because they're obligated. That's part of their obligation as being a state and a federal partner.
Yeah, I was going to say, there was the education part of it, because I remember when we were there, we bring people in and from various services stuff, and so that's great. And I know we're running near our end of time, but before we go and connected to the Revere Senior Center, it's great to see that young Bob Haas, who used to work at our senior center, is now the director, I think, in Danvers.
Danvers, yeah.
At the Danvers Senior Center.
I was excited for Bob. He let me know, and obviously a great man, great family.
Yep.
And as you know, his father's namesake is on our Health and Wellness Center,
Yes.
which is frequented by our seniors as well. And they do a lot of classes, a lot of aerobics classes. But he called me, and I know he was working for the senator's office, and he said, "Hey, I just want to give you a heads up. You're probably going to get a reference call from me on for a job."
Yep.
I was like, and I was just so excited because, I know what it's like to be a young parent,
Yep.
and being able to be home in the evening and go to the baseball game and go coach softball or t-ball or soccer or whatever that sport may be. It was such a part of my life for a long period of time that when it stopped because my kids aged out or my son's away in the military, my daughter's at college, so they don't need you as much anymore. But being present in those times is a big part of my life.
Yep.
And so I was just excited that Bob has got a little more of a 9-to-5 job.
Yep.
And he's able to go and be with his children in those times.
His son is just about that
Yeah,
age, right?
his son, his daughter, they're little people.
They're little people,
and
but
they need big people to help guide them around, but also to be there, to witness the moments in their life that will be forever memories.
Yeah.
So I love it. I'm happy for him,
Yeah.
and I know that he's going to do it, make a great impact in Vegas.
Yeah, no, it's kudos to him. I just wanted to bring that up. And at this point, I think we'll wrap it up. I think it's been a great conversation. Is there anything I missed?
No, we're going to do this more often, and then
I would love to.
You know, just to make sure everyone knows that we do look forward to doing this in the summer in the sand.
Yes, yeah, for
Okay.
sure. And we'll do it a couple more times during the year. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Always a pleasure, Patrick.
Thank you very much.
It's been a pleasure. Well, once again, conversations with the mayor, and until we meet again, y'all take care now, yeah?